Max.
What's going on, everybody? Your boy Sin at Blerdcon 2022, and I have the pleasure to sit and have a little conversation with somebody I'm pretty sure you all know. He is not unfamiliar whatsoever, but for the sake of it, I will allow him to introduce himself to you all. Please, sir, introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, my name is Tyler James Williams. You know me from shows like Everybody Hates Chris and Abbott Elementary, and it's just exciting to be here at Blerdcon, and I just got the opportunity to talk about those shows, and Chris Rock,
Yes.
he's always been like a big brother to me. So I just want to shout out everybody. Thank you for joining us here at Blerdcon.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to sit with us.
Not at all.
So the first question I want to ask you is about Blerdcon itself.
Okay.
One, I want to know, because you're not unfamiliar to the con scene and the convention circuit, anything like that, but I want to know, what are you looking forward to most at Blerdcon, since this is your first time here, and what do you think about the importance of Blerdcon being around in its fifth year with today's climate?
So obviously, every year I've always done San Diego Comic Con. I've married people at San Diego Comic Con, and done all sorts of events and what have you over the years there. And I think it's always been fun, always exciting. But within that San Diego Comic Con crowd, there's a sub crowd, right? And that crowd is, I think, very much Blerdcon, very much the black female nerd gangs that exist out there in the world, fan bros and what have you. And the stereotype that is often associated with being nerds, the nerdy guy who's kind of shy and might know what's going on, it's not exactly the prototype for the black nerd. The black nerd athlete, cool guy.
Yeah, it's something that we talk about on our panel, being comfortable being a geek.
It's a different thing,
Yes.
right? And I've always been that guy. It's always been a part of who I was. I didn't have the internet as a younger guy in the same way at my disposal. So I didn't get an opportunity to meet people in
like
the same way that you could now. And these conventions at the time, I remember the first time I went to San Diego Comic Con, Sergio Aragones took me, and it was Mad TV in 1996. You go park across the street and you would walk down Artist Alley and see all these iconic artists, and I was with an iconic artist, so I got introduced that way, right? The significance here is that at that time, there weren't a tremendous number of black artists, comics that you were even hearing about.
Right.
And so the discovery process of those things came later and over the years. And at Blerdcon, you get to not only define and discover those things, you get to be within a community of individuals who knows those things just as well as you do, right? And community is critically important, because how you end up building together has a lot to do with those people that you connect with. And this opportunity is an opportunity that, previously didn't exist so well. And it certainly felt like it was always drowned in the larger spaces. So for me, that's what Blerdcon is, that opportunity to connect and vibe and be artistically stimulated by that same audience of people that's just like me, because ultimately I'm just a fan. I started off as a fan. I don't really understand how you start as a fan and you get famous and then you ain't no fan no more. Right. I don't really understand that. I'm like, what? To me, I still geek out, about certain things. It's just what it is. So I kind of feel like that's authentically who I am as an artist. And when I was on Mad TV, I was geeked out. I used to read Mad Magazine. I was hyped to the mug. You know what I mean? I was like, what? So, and I was trying to hold true to the spirit of it, right? No sacred cows, take no prisoners. You gut the icons through the center. That's what Mad Magazine was. That's what I wanted to do on Mad TV. That was very much at odds with, the corporate entities, right? But artistically, that's where I came from. So for me, that's Blerdcon. That's the importance of these type of events for me. I get to be with my peoples. And in terms of me being here for the first time, 5 years in, the opportunity and the schedules kind of, finally put themselves together. I knew about it, but I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't just get a chance to get here.
Right.
So, I'm excited as hell to be here. And
I'm glad that you are here and get to
Yeah.
experience it because we've been experiencing it since the first one, and it's a sight to behold. I would say
yeah,
that.
it's
Definitely.
beautiful.
Also, one thing I genuinely like about you as an actor is you have some serious range. You can be hysterically funny in one movie or one show, and then be the completely opposite next, be very dramatic, killing it on screen. Is there a type of role that you haven't played yet that you want to tackle at some point in the future?
Yeah, I think I got a lot of ground left to cover. I think look, I'm drawn to James Baldwin and a few other roles that I think just out there that I think would be interesting to talk about because of who the people are and what the people accomplished. Baldwin in particular, I've just been a fan of since I was a young man as a writer. Just who he was, how he was, the way he thought, I think was transformative. Not just for Black Americans, just for the world at large. But I think I try and really, when I'm acting, a lot of times I'm in a collaboration, right? It's your story, it's your character.
Right.
And I'm trying to bring something to your story and your character that illuminates and showcases something that's important to you in your story that not that you missed, but that I get to bring my skill set to it in the creation of this character. I enjoy that as an actor, right? It's different when I'm the creative, right? And I'm doing the thing myself. It's a little different. And I kind of separate the processes because I enjoy, as a writer, having that blank canvas. And I enjoy when an actor comes to tell my story, not trying to take my story and make it their story.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a different thing. I like to honor the IP. I want to tell your story. I want to collaborate with you so we can find nuances in your story. I'm not there to take your story from you or act like your story is my
Just
story.
trying to tell it the best way possible.
Your story.
Yes.
And when I'm telling my story, I hope I get collaborators that are coming to do the same thing with me, right? And I think of storytelling that way. It's a collaboration, and it's hair and makeup and costume and props and writer and director. It's a group of us, right? That are really figuring out what the right framing is. And I embrace that process because that's what storytelling is. It's 15 people in a van.
Yeah.
That's really what it is, right? And it doesn't exist in those other places. It's 15 people in a van. And if you don't do that, you don't know that. I grew up in that set, in that place, looking at what 15 people in a van deployed. Navigating the political spaces of the Disneys and Marvels and NBC, that's a whole other gig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there are people who do it beautifully. And I like to think, because I've been in the business so long, I've learned to do that fairly well. But it's about the 15 people in the van. It's about deploying on the set. When you learn the lighting is going to be like this, and you got this, and you ain't got none of that you thought you had before. And it's just you and that person, and now you got to figure out how to bring that to life.
Yeah, people don't realize that when they're watching stuff like this. It's yes, you're the one on the screen doing and acting, but there's so many other people behind the scenes coming together to make like the actor in the scene, like you said, lighting and sitting in the writer's room and the outfits, the costume designers, all that stuff. It all plays a part in making what you see on the screen such a beautiful piece of artwork.
It's a collaboration.
Yes.
And I believe it works best when you are mindful of that process. As soon as you start thinking that what everything is happening is about you, you were lost. I mean, and to me, in this process, you were lost and down a road that is antithetical to the process. I try and explain to people when they talk to me about something like Mr. Nancy and the slave ship scene, that scene is set by a young man named Confidence, who's an African-American actor. He's of Nigerian descent. And his performance as the slave playing to Anansi sets the stage for Anansi. Without his performance, that is not the same scene.
Right.
He is extraordinary in his performance because the tone that he's able to strike makes you feel like you were in his prayer. Without that, there is no Nancy as you know him. It is that collaboration, right? With a Mexican director, Guillermo Navarro,
Yes.
who shot that scene, who looked into the set and was like, okay, y'all gave me 45 black dudes. I'm gonna spray glycerin on them, and I'm shooting in the darkness. Okay.
Wow.
His trying to figure out, you know what? I'm just gonna sit the camera here, and we're just gonna move with you, and we're gonna feel the rock. So it's gonna move slow, and you're just gonna stage it. That's what we're gonna do.
Beautiful.
So it was 90 degrees on stage because the air conditioning was broken. It was 99 degrees outside. In Toronto, Black Lives Matter had the front page of the Toronto paper because even the black Canadians were like, these white folks is racist. People were like, sorry, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. Because, it's Canadians.
Yeah.
And there I was doing Nancy. So I say all that to say, I don't know how to unpack those parts to answer that question, but I do know how to lay out what the process is for me artistically to hopefully to authentically explain to an audience how it's all blurry in the creative process because you're in a collaboration.
I dig all of that. And my next question, this conversation flows right into it. You've been in the acting business for a long time now, but I do notice you do have some writing credits, producing credits on things. Is that something you want to get more into later down the line, like directing and more writing and stuff like that?
It's never stopped. I just never. I mean, I've been writing and producing stuff since I was 19 years old. It's been a nonstop process. It's
Just into everything. All
well.
aspects of it.
Let me put it to you like this. All right. During the pandemic, Matthew Knowles hit me up, and he'd written a book, a New York Times bestselling book called "Racism Through the Eyes of a Child," and he wanted to adapt that book into a film. And it's about his parents, Beyonce and Solange's grandparents, and their great-great-grandparents, and what happened in Marion, Alabama during that period of time, and the entrepreneurs that they were that led to Matthew being an entrepreneur, that led to him funding Destiny's Child because he paid that money up front. That was not the record label's money, that was his money.
Okay.
And the idea for what that content would be about, what Destiny's Child would sing about, that was his idea, that women needed to sing women empowerment songs, and that he wanted his daughters to do that, and he was going to fund and put together a group, and he would take it to the record company and say, it's all funded, take it or leave it. To lay the foundation for her to become the artist that she is, because he was saying she's not an R&B artist, she's singing more mainstream theme, so I want a pop artist budget.
I get it, yeah.
So writing that story and laying that foundation, and he's hiring me to write the Destiny's Child story and his King Richard story. I've been on the creative on those types of projects my entire life, right? Writing Mr. Nancy in season 2 of that show and working with Rodney Barnes to do that. Debbie Allen hit me up and wanted me to work on a show that she's show running called Hollywood High. I don't know anything else.
Is there one you prefer over the other, like acting to writing?
They're very much
kinda
the same thing to me. Like writing is about starting off with a blank canvas, right? And then depending on who you're hired by, they have a story to tell. So my job is to crawl inside of your story and figure out your story. I just met with the Prince estate and we were discussing what I would do with that particular story and how that would work. So I do so much of creative ideation. I've always done it. I've been doing that since I was a teenager. I did that for 7-Up. I did that for Mazda. I did that for Farmers Insurance. I've just done that for over 30 years. It's just that my business wasn't always running through the Hollywood machine. I had my own business. I started an advertising agency when I was 18 years old. So I think it's critically important as a creative for you to have a way for you to do your creative outlet that isn't running through somebody else's business.
Right.
And I've always done that. So because of that, a third of my resume is on IMDb and the other 70% is ran through my business. You don't know I went and wrote stuff for Ubisoft when I did Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon and
Which
wrote all
reference?
that and helped them, relaunch that brand, but I don't care about any of that. For me, you get handed a blank slate, you have a story to tell. Sometimes it's your story, sometimes it's someone else's story, but the job is to authentically figure out what the fans really care about. I've never looked to the executive, I've always looked to the fans. And in the process of trying to understand what resonates for fans and why, I start writing the story. That is my creative process. I want to connect with the core of where the audience is. I'm not interested in anything else. I'm a fan. I can't imagine you as a storyteller telling me, right? Guiding me, but you kind of got to tap into where I am, right? So I just think it's a tricky thing now because we're not in the same world as we were when I was a kid and Star Wars came along. Right? So much information out there. I have so much information, right? If I'm a young person right now and we're going to talk about gun violence, you can't possibly show me some old man story about gun violence where people are inactive.
Yeah.
I want it now. I want the change now. You got to talk to me where I am. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I learned with 7-Up. Oh, your campaigns are failing because you're not talking to children where they are. I'm 16 years old. I'm telling you to kiss my ass.
Yeah.
I'm trying to rebel.
Just them trying to connect to the old ways of thinking instead of tapping into what people are talking about and caring about right now.
So I wrote that campaign with that in mind. Oh, what are young people doing? Rebelling. Give them a way to rebel. Up yours. Let's do that.
There you go.
So I've always written that way. I've always thought that way because I don't, even if I'm telling a story to you, how do we talk about things that you ain't interested in? And I expect you to engage.
Makes sense.
So I feel like it's so arrogant to think that my experience alone is the thing that's going to draw you in. And I'm just so wonderful at my experience. I'm so magical at it, of course. But just telling you about it's going to make you drop everything you're doing. Of course, gravitate to what I'm talking about. It's a misnomer.
Well, let's have a little bit of fun. I want to know, what is your favorite pop culture fandoms? Like a Star Wars or Star Trek, DC, MCU, all that type of stuff. And which one, if you had the opportunity, would you like to be a part of?
So I'm a part of a number of fandoms. I think MTV crowned me the king of fandom in 2015 because I'm the captain of multiple ships and multiple fandoms. So we'll run through a couple of them. I like the disruptors in fandoms. I like the people who you say aren't supposed to ship that because I don't think that's your damn business. You ship anything you fucking want, right? You're making up the thing that you like. You're making up the shipping relationships that you like. So,
You heard it.
That's what fandom's all about, right? Because a lot of times the canon doesn't represent you, right? So it's what you're able to create in fandom that is the thing that really, it is archive of our own. It is fans telling those stories / fan fiction. I mean, before that, what the hell did the LGBTQ plus community have?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Not much.
Unless you were shipping / what the hell was there? All right, so when people started / shipping me and Ichabod Crane from Sleepy Hollow, I was all about it. Okay, and so my favorite ship in the American Gods fandom is Sin. It's Jin and Celine. Those are my favorites. And the Supernatural fandom, it's Destiel. That's my fandom. In the Arrow fandom, it's Elicity. Probably the biggest, more mainstream, but I ship Elicity, I always have. Let's see, in the Flash fandom, it was always West Allen. I mean, it was the biracial one. It was the one I was gonna, I was gonna Candace Patton. That's my ass. You know what I'm saying? In the X-Files fandom, it was always Jolovany.
Okay.
For me, that was primarily because I know David, I know Jillian, but I'm about being in fandom as a fan. I'm not about being in fandom as a celebrity.
Yeah.
So fuck that I know them. I get to do just like the fans do and act like y'all supposed to be together.
You're just looking at the characters like,
Right.
I want y'all two to be together.
Even though I know what the real deal is, that ain't got nothing to do with what we over here shipping.
Yeah.
So I'm captain of that ship in that fandom, right? And the Star Wars fandom for me was always anything related to Lando Calrissian, you know. And Darth Vader got asthma. I don't care what you say, but that's James Earl Jones. That's James Earl Jones, but he got asthma.
Yeah, pretty bad too.
He got some serious asthma. And I was like, I don't know what y'all need to do. Just give him a cigarette, shut this whole situation down. He ain't gonna kick nobody's ass. Why y'all scared of this dude? He got asthma. He got asthma. And I had to let Jar Jar Binks go because I just couldn't. I was like, you need to go marry a black woman. And he did. Good job. Okay. Now you know what it is. But the Star Wars fandom is always special because Lando existed, right? And at the time, there wasn't a lot of representation. Morpheus, again, without Morpheus, the Matrix is uninteresting to me as the premise altogether, frankly. I think Lawrence Fishburne should be celebrated and isn't celebrated enough.
I can get behind that.
You know, I'm sorry. Even thematically, I mean, all of it for what he brought to that, right? Is I just think pretty special, and also I think it speaks to the very reason why Blerdcon is important, that they would do another movie and think that they could do it without Morpheus.
No, that was a shame.
That was a travesty that you would even like. Come on.
Yeah.
So for me, again, when we talk about these ideas, I look across the Disney lexicon and I see no one that looks like us. I see very few black female princesses, and there's 16 shades to black, and y'all may be covered one or two. So, you know, and when I look at Asian, when I look at the mix between Asian and black, which is all through the islands, and certainly in my family, when I look at Native American, which is really black, and they made up some cowboys and Indians mess. But my point is, all of this, even when I look at Latino, even when I look at Italian, when I look at the Ottoman Empire, what I see is a sprawling group of the world wherein there are people who look like us, who learn to bathe and learn irrigation and learn these core components that are part of modern culture from these people who look like us. And I see little representation of that for my daughters who complain about representation at 5 and 12. So for me, these stories are how we now spread our history. It's how our griots would have done it, right? I'll end on this note. There's a comic book called The Montgomery Story.
Okay.
You ever heard of this comic book?
I haven't heard of it.
Okay. The Montgomery Story is a Martin Luther King comic book.
Okay.
And it was done by a guy named Thich Nhat Hanh. He was a Zen master. He recently passed away. Jewish woman by the name of Alfred Hassler and a woman named Sister Chan Kham. They were the ones that decided during the Vietnam War that there were three sides to war. There was the Vietnamese, the Viet Cong fighting back. There was the Americans, and there was a third way, peace. Y'all don't fight each other. And when the nonviolent movement started, they began the nonviolent movement. They began the Fellowship of Reconciliation. And they believed that Martin Luther King should have a comic book because Martin Luther King understood their ideals and he was preaching their principles of nonviolence. It came from them.
That sounds interesting, very interesting.
That comic book is what created so much of the Arab Springs that you saw around the world, is they'd gotten a hold of the Montgomery Story.
Wow.
Which taught the principles of nonviolence established by a Zen master. So there's a really interesting connection when you look between what we call civil rights, which is really human rights, and human rights globally. Right, that connection was laid down in the 60s and 70s. That, you can go buy that story. Did nobody teach me that? I found that in a comic book.
Comic books been telling very real stories for a very long time.
Exactly. So, for me, that's what comic books were to me. It was Mad Magazine, it was the Montgomery Story, and then I stumbled upon some of the Millennium stuff that Reginald Hudlin and Dennis Cowan were doing back in the day, and suddenly I had unlocked a door that I'd never thought I was ever going to be in again, and suddenly I found Batman and these other characters, and suddenly I started looking for myself, and I found little of myself, but I was running sports. I was running what was hot on the dance scene. I was running what was hot on the comedy scene. And I said, man, if we ever run what's hot on this scene, how magical might it be?
And that's what they're doing now. They're finding these properties, taking them up and running with them from the boys to DC and MCU, all this stuff. They're pulling these stories out.
And my hope that we'll get to Grandma Washington, and we'll get to some of these other stories where we are the thing and not the side characters in it, and not to the exclusion of others. That's to me the weird part of it. It's like their worldview is exclusionary, so the content has these side characters.
Right.
My worldview is not exclusionary. So I don't think it means there ain't no badass white or Asian. I think it's about how all of these characters come together to do this thing.
Yeah.
Whereas right now it's about how these motherfuckers are shutting it down and you doing what you can.
Yeah, we just want to be involved. Like, we don't have to be the side characters. We can be main characters alongside the white main
I
characters.
don't understand.
Yeah, it's
I don't understand why Morpheus is not important to you. He's not a side character.
No,
Neo is not the main character. I don't know what you're talking about. He ain't had no pills. What the fuck are you talking about? Where were his pills?
Hey, look, with everything that you do, you seem to be a very busy person. How do you wind down at the end of the day? Because I know I'll come home from whether we're doing this or my 9 to 5 job, and I'll play a game, watch one of my favorite shows or anime or something like that to wind down. How do you wind down?
This ain't work.
It's passion, it's love.
This is a gift.
Mm.
God gave me a couple of really awesome gifts, and I'm deeply fucking grateful for it. But this is not work. I'm not. That would be hilarious.
I get
So for me, I don't really have to wind down. I mean, I would be doing this shit like So I just, I'm grateful, man. I feel blessed that I've been able to make a living out of the thing that I love. I feel like people like, Tony Hawk. He's like, I'm a skateboard. And people are like, boy, you're crazy. You make no money skateboarding. But
Look at him now.
figure that out, right?
Yep.
So I encourage people to do the thing that they love, you know what I mean? And figure out how they can do it. I think it's important. I really do. Because I think
100%.
what you're going to do, you're going to be miserable your whole life doing the thing you don't love with people you don't like.
Or you can get up and go start doing what you love and work at it hard.
Ain't nobody stopping you but you. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. So accept it. Accept the fact that your destiny is in your hands. And the prison is what they sold you. The prison is that you're locked and you can't. That's a cult. Slavery is a cult. That's what it is.
I like that.
Once they got control of your mind, they can convince you that you're
Yep.
nobody, right? So if somebody else gets control of your mind and maybe convinces you that you're somebody, then maybe it'll be harder for them to convince you that you're nobody. You're God.
Y'all heard that?
Most intellects do not believe in God. But the fear is just the same. I believe that's the Erykah Badu bar. And I believe the power of that bar and what she's trying to say is that she's a goddess and that you're a god. And it's important for you to know that.
It's all in your mind.
Largely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So before we get out of here, we call ourselves Loading Snacks.
Okay.
Loading Snack is a snack you can eat while you're gaming that will not ruin your controller or mouse and keyboard. So
Sure.
Doritos, Cheetos, no.
Right.
But something like pretzels or gummy bears, fine.
Yes.
What is one of your loading snacks that you go to when you're watching something or gaming or just?
Here's my game.
Okay.
All right. You can do the popcorn because it don't shed the same way, but it's gonna leave a mess on the floor. Here's what I recommend. You ain't gonna like this, so I'm telling you right now.
Okay.
I take water. I put in lemon juice.
Okay.
I put in chlorophyll.
Okay.
I put in marine phytoplankton.
Okay.
I shake it up. I drink it. The marine phytoplankton will clear your brain fog and focus. The chlorophyll will move the oxygen through your body and hydrate you and give you an energy boost, almost like it's caffeine.
Okay.
You will have no mess whatsoever. And if you get the chlorophyll that has the mint, if you happen to belch, you get a little aftertaste with a little mint. Just a little something, just pick you up. You know what I'm saying? Just a little pick me up. That is my go-to because I'm vegan.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do something quick because you're on the controller. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I ain't got all day. I need something to hit something quick, boom, so I can get back to tagging that ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I got time to spend all day. And don't handle my business.
Right.
I also like my chopped fruit. right? But I want mango, something that ain't gonna be too slimy, something I can pop in the mouth. I'm not gonna chew while I'm whooping her there. I'm saying.
At least you can use a fork with
I'm
that.
saying, wait off there. I'm saying, pull it off to the side. I know you put that. You see that hand like this too? Yeah. So those are my go-tos. I find, and I'm gonna just throw this out to you. I have a thing where it's a Garden of Life vitamin C spray. And I told my boy about this combination of things because he really liked to get high.
Okay.
And vitamin C and mango significantly increase and expand your high.
Hey, mark that point on the video for later.
So, and the chlorophyll does the same thing. You're doing a green liquid with the green. So all you're doing is you need the mango thing. You know what I'm saying? Drinking the other green drink thing. You're getting the protein kick and the vitamin C thing, but your head is clear.
Right.
And your high is rolling.
Interesting.
So I'm just giving you that little, you know, may the 4th be with you tip.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In case you gaming on 420 and you said loading snacks, Lou's never gave you no loading snacks that were healthy.
Hey.
We just loaded your ass up.
Hey. Thank you. Hey, look, it has been an honor and a pleasure to sit here and talk with you, man. I appreciate it.
Fam. Thank you for having me, man.
Thank you. Y'all know what it is. It's Blerdcon 2022. Y'all know who this is. This is Orlando Jones. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out. What's going on, everybody? Did you enjoy what you saw? Of course you did. So if you want to help us out and support us, here's what you can do. On whatever platform you're currently streaming us on, just like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to patreon.com/loading snacks and become one of our patrons there.